Well, the judge dismissed it and said there's no case here.
It really is an impactful and powerful piece of evidence that's going to go against Lively.
Blake Lively, if they find that she just was dishonest and lied on one single point of evidence in this case, in her testimony, the jury instruction says that they are allowed to discount her entire testimony.
Blake Lively is having bouts of rage. All over after a judge's startling. Choose to be truthful. Here, she is the mastermind behind her own catastrophe.
So her testimony is super important in this case. And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars.
Now,
with the public's attention shifting against her, even the judge finds it difficult to discern a positive. It turns out that her side is non-existent.
She wants different rules for her than she wants for Baldoni and his team, which I don't think the judge will agree with.
And both of us have known Lively for months, had been navigating this lawsuit using well-planned public relations strategies, working extra hours to keep control of. She had been acting out the story. Victim who attempts to portray Baldoni as the attacker is the issue, accountable for all the mishaps.
Trials are about the truth, and juries want the truth. And if you lie to them, they will hold it against you.
However, when, in a sense, the judge decided against her, that nobody anticipated, shattering that total deception, the details of the choices were nothing less than. She was humiliated, and it also made her weaker case, but it additionally revealed the shaky basis for the accusations she made, been heavily relying on.
that's Blake Lively's PR firm begging to be let go of the case. I think actually they may have the worst messages of all.
The press was already waiting and circling like vultures for a factor to shift the balance, and this was the conversation overnight. Moved from Blake's plight to what is she truly concealing, the decision sent the social media and the internet in overdrive. Burst with news outlet reactions. Scram caused them to expel their legal analysts, and interpretations were analyzing each and every detail.
And if I were her attorney, I'd want to get out of this case before she has to sit for deposition, not just because it might be bad for the case, but PR-wise, it's not going to be good.
And although some made an effort to protect Lively from the overpowering, the violent response was the type of decision that altered the public's real-time perception. Wasn't only, it was a public legal loss as well. Disgrace. Blake, who had dedicated her professional life to constructing a controlled image with care and perfection, was unable to cope with it.
Every expert's going to skew it towards their view of the case. And then the penultimate question to the expert is, but you agree with me, the jury is able to determine for themselves what this video is showing.
The meltdown was instantaneous. The sources that have been closely observing her actions since the lawsuit started by characterizing her reaction as anxious, frenzied, and completely unraveling of the cool-headed persona she had put up a lot of effort to keep her. Wasn't merely annoyed, she was furious.
Because jurors are very bright, especially collectively. When they're all together, they all come from varied backgrounds. They're the smartest people in the room collectively, and they generally get the right result. So the experts here are going to be important, but ultimately this video is damning, and I think you're right to say, or I was right to say, this is some of the most damning evidence in this case.
Suddenly, her whole public relations team was in full, scrambling to change the focus in CR mode. Elsewhere, although there isn't any damage, control could make it disappear. That at last, Hollywood was recognizing her. And the lawsuit wasn't the only thing involved. Further, the public's reaction had already been simmering, but following the judge's choice, it burst into something even greater than merely a legal setback. It marked a shift in how people perceived Blake Lively in its entirety.
I think that's part of the PR battle. From a legal perspective, there would be no reason to put a statement by an expert in your complaint. It won't be shown to the jury. When you do go to trial, each side is going to have experts that they hire. Everybody has hired experts, and really experts are just hired guns.
The story was changing quickly, and not several years in her favor. She had been acclaimed as a golden star in Hollywood, the charming, refined actress girls who appear to be in charge at all times, although She was now being recognized for what she was, a force capable of manipulation who had pulled threads behind the scenes for years, scenes to maintain her authority.
Because it's pointless. This is only for public consumption.
Right.
And it's only to try to take back the narrative that Baldoni's team has done a very good job of. And perhaps the reason they've done such a good job on the Baldoni's team is because they have more truth on their side than perhaps Blake Lively does.
Her numbers on social media narrate the entire tale at this time. When the ruling was made, people began to jump ship. Just the past few months, the follower has fallen at a rate no one can match. Anticipated.
Both sides are trying to kill each other, and right now Baldoni's team is winning hands down. Public opinion is completely behind him. You've got even conservative bloggers, Candace Owens comes to mind, Meghan McCain. These are very conservative people, and they are completely behind Baldoni and his team and what's happening here.
We're not. We're having a little conversation. Historic losses of hundreds of. There are thousands of unfollowers, and with each new development regarding this lawsuit, that number initially continues to rise. Attempted to defend it by referring to it as a brief setback, but the truth is evident that Blake Lively is turning into the least popular person in Hollywood, and she is solely responsible for herself.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they need to listen to their lawyers, and they need to resolve this case if possible.
Conversely, Justin Baldoni is feeling the complete opposite. While support for Blake is eroding every minute, Baldoni is witnessing a surge in new followers, new buddies, and new backers.
You're basically saying you're a liar. You misrepresent who you are in the court of public opinion. They've lost.
Those who previously disregarded his viewpoint of the narrative is now being examined again, recognizing the possibility that he was being truthful throughout the numbers. Don't lie. The difference is obvious. For Lively, it's a total PR nightmare. One that requires no faked appearances at all, or well-written phrases can correct.
This is insane. What are you talking about? She genuinely is not aware of how insane she sounds.
However, the criticism isn't. Hollywood itself is only taking place online, is quickly moving away from her. Directors, producers, and executives who once viewed her as a resource are now considering her a liability.
There's a lot of comments that she puts in here that you're just like, why would you want to take over someone's movie? The outfits in this end are so out of touch. No, we don't want to watch bullies like Blake.
And Hollywood, let's face it, doesn't behave morally. It doesn't give a damn who is correct or incorrect in a court case. Money is what Hollywood is interested in. Power and prestige. And at the moment, Blake. Officially, Lively is detrimental to business.
That's insane and that's crazy. And this is a reason why I think in the future people are just not going to work with her, because it's starting to add up. People are realizing that this is a pathology.
Insiders with knowledge of I&D theory say that the reluctance to collaborate with her is growing every day. Nobody want to be the person who should wager on an actress whose nobody is seeing the decline in public opinion. Want to be connected to someone who is creating more scandal-related headlines rather than for real work.
While Team Blake Lively may think they have the upper hand, sources say she has no idea what's coming regarding her battle with Justin Baldoni.
And more significantly, nobody wishes to handle the type of control Blake's strange behavior, renowned for the reason that we must not forget. This goes beyond the lawsuit alone, is about a behavioral habit that has been quietly accepted for many years, however, suddenly being apparent in the most detrimental manner. Potentially
unlikely to be remembered as the spark that ignited the next chapter of the Me Too movement. On the other side is a billionaire producer, a novice filmmaker, director, and a small Baha'i, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I think it's Baha'i employees who believe they are simply living up to the moral code of their faith.
There have been rumors circulating about her long-term behind-the-scenes antics. The manner in which she assumes responsibility for tasks, overrides the director's directives in the script, transforms and ensures that she's the way she is at the center of everything, manipulates things to keep the upper, the manner in which she manipulates stories, making sure that everything happens according to as she desires, and up until this point, She had escaped punishment, but this. She has been somewhat exposed by the court battle. That nobody can overlook.
If the judge couldn't find anything there, I find it a little suspicious. So a source is talking on behalf of this Shane guy, saying that about Justin, that he always tried to present himself as a progressive man.
The truth is that litigation is no longer solely a legal battle. For Blake, it's a full-blown reckoning. Lively isn't only battling in court. She is struggling for her job, repute, as well as whatever is left of the image that she has developed over time, and at the current pace, she is losing on every front.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have hired former CIA agents with a proven track record of lying to the public, gaslighting the public.
If she considered employing a former CAPR specialist, would save her, but she was mistaken.
He's quietly working with Nick Shapiro, the CIA's former deputy chief of staff and senior advisor to former director John Brennan. So this guy, high up, just about as high up as you could possibly get if he is the deputy chief of staff.
If she believed, attending film festivals and acting as like nothing was wrong would, she was mistaken. And if she believed, the sector would keep safeguarding. Despite all, she was completely mistaken. The judge's decision did more than merely harm her. The last nail in the coffin, if you will, of a career that is already in decline.
That the CIA, after JFK was shot in the 60s, put journalists in the mainstream media on their payroll. And they did this in order to control the narrative, right? Which is another way of saying to gaslight the public, to stop the public from asking certain questions.
Currently, how much worse can it get? That's the actual question. Obtain, because if things continue to go this way, are leaving, we may be witnessing one of Hollywood's most spectacular collapses. Has not seen a lot of stag in years. Red carpet appearances or smiles can alter that, and the current events made the situation worse overall. Yes, I am discussing the occasion when Blake Southwest brought Lively to South on March 9th, 2025.
If you were a good journalist and you're at that red carpet, your duty is to ask people about Blake Lively being there and the whole situation.
She strolled the red carpet with assurance that someone who is either unaware or refused to recognize the raging storm surrounding her, with the case against Justin Baldoni becoming a well-known catastrophe. Her reputation is rapidly declining, more so than before, and her credibility is growing. Most individuals are torn by the media, thought she would keep quiet, perhaps even avoid the event completely.
Oh my God, I'm so happy and I'm so lucky and I love my fans so much and I love the journalists, I love the photographers. I was like, wow. She walked up to fans, took selfies and hugged people and were like, oh, don't take your selfie like this, put it on video mode and it's much better. She was so sweet.
Blake, however, had other ideas. Rather than backing down, she walked right into the limelight, resolute to demonstrate her continued authority. It was more than just a public show. It was a declaration, but it was a declaration that didn't work out. Amazingly,
it's like she's trying to tell us that we were all wrong and she's a really nice person because now we can see that she is.
As soon as she set foot on the tension was high on the red carpet. Typically, the focus of these gatherings is enthusiasm and fixation, but this. At one point, it seemed like something different. The cameras were rolling in full, but there simply wasn't the same level of energy.
And she was friends with people just hanging out there and gave this guy a hug and it was like, oh, this is so nice.
Each and every fan, every industry, every reporter, inside observers were aware that this was more than a mere film debut. This was Blake attempting to persuade everyone that she posed as though nothing was wrong. Pictures grinned at the cameras and even tried to interact with fans, but something was obviously wrong with the usually natural charisma felt artificial, nearly mechanical, regardless of how difficult She made an effort to pretend that everything was fine. The fissures were clearly visible.
Know that they weren't exactly on her side of the whole situation going on with him. Someone held up a sign that said, "Justice for Justin Baldoni, Blake lied," and they were also wearing a shirt that says, "Blake lied."
And then the turning point arrived. Transformed the evening into a show as Blake moved through the crimson, somewhere beyond the cameras that flash and carefully thought out exchanges. A protester pierced the shiny facade, displaying a sign that said, Justin Baldwin Blake's justice was dishonest. It was impossible to disregard the message. Later, the demonstrator was revealed to be a YouTuber. Colonel CTS, a social pundit, stood little off to the side, making it plain, because some of the attendees weren't there to commemorate.
People commented and said, "Ooh, she hates her. Girl couldn't fake it. Oh, you know," are the exact words I say when someone asks me how I am and I am barely hanging on. "Oh, you know," is the new "here, damn."
The existence of a protester during a prominent event like this would have been sufficiently unpleasant on its own, but Blake's approach to it made matters worse rather than better. Ignoring it or handling it politely, she appeared clearly shaken, although it was only briefly. Yet at that very instant, when the mask fell, the cameras captured it, and shortly after, the video was everywhere.
I want to ask you, how do you feel like how does it feel like the movie's being impacted kind of by everything happening around going on in the world?
Why, what happened? I did ayahuasca and the last year of my life is just gone, but I've heard the movie's amazing.
Wait, thank you.
In the meanwhile, every day the media was consuming this entertainment source, ranging from TMZ to male reporters at the Daily, had examining her body language and displays her encounters with the headlines essentially spoke for themselves. Blake Lively strives to look good in the face of. Blake is called out by a legal scandal protester. Hollywood's favorite, Lively on the red carpet. No more animated faces react negatively to. The examination was unrelenting, and the cast interaction followed, or more precisely, the absence of communication. The co-star of Anna Kendrick, Blake, in a simple favor too attended the event as well, and if anyone believed they would wear on the United Front, they were gravely misinformed. Kendrick appeared determined, if anything, to keep as far away from oneself as possible, and as lively as feasible.
She just threw this question at her saying how was it to work with Anna again? And she said this.
What does it mean to be back with Anna?
Oh, it's the best. I'm so happy.
When questioned about collaborating with, once more, Blake, Anna's answer was brief, trimmed, and entirely free of any warmth, as she already stated. Swiftly changing gears and on with it was the type of response you provide when you wish to avoid lying, but you also don't wish to be honest with everyone. Discovered it.
Then someone asked Anna Kendrick the same thing. What was it like being back with Blake? And she was running away saying, "Oh, you know."
Anna, what does it mean to be working with Blake again?
Oh, they're talking about you.
Yeah, she wasn't having it at all.
The internet had a field day analyzing that particular moment. The deluge of comments allowed it to be pointed out. The sound of Kendrick's answer, saying anything about a former partner that you're compelled to work with a girl who couldn't pretend. On TikTok, one admirer left a comment and another wrote, "Oh, that's the new one I'd rather." I wouldn't say the video got viral in a matter of hours, obtaining millions of views on platforms.
So no one wants to be involved with Blake Lively. And I think one of the questions that Anna Kendrick was asked, which I thought was quite funny, by a Variety reporter, she asked her, coming from being a director, now going back to acting, how's that for you?
Went into acting right after directing. The team might be like, "Oh boy, she directs one thing and she thinks she knows everything."
If Kendrick's answer was insufficient, her body language was clear throughout. The night sadly revealed that her relationship with Lively was. During interviews, it was everything but cordial. She was a little too far away. When taking group pictures, she positioned herself close to Henry's grasp instead, and Kendrick's expression as Blake spoke was inscrutable, smileless, and not coerced. Excitement is merely a blank look that said a lot.
Blake Lively took over the directing as well from It Ends With Us, and Anna Kendrick knows how to switch on and off her roles in a movie.
This wasn't. The initial reports of conflict between had emerged, but this was the initial. People could witness it for themselves at that time. Rumors of their long-standing feud had been around for a long time. Years. But now that the litigation is still pending over everything, with the media funding further focus, those rumors had a new existence.
Why would happen? I did ayahuasca and the last year of my life is just gone, but I've heard the movie's amazing.
Wait, thank you.
Yeah, it's a typical Anna Kendrick kind of comment.
The conjecture only grew worse when different types attempted to introduce a query regarding whether the continuous drama involving Blake had impacted the release of the film. It was the sort of query that everyone was familiar with, was approaching the type that any experienced the actor ought to have been ready for. Pure Kendrick's answer. She said, avoidance. Why? What happened? Pretending to be uninformed before closing the discourse down to the last detail.
When you look at photos, she was never posing next to Blake Lively in any photos from the premiere. They always had like a buffer in between them. So Paul Feig, the director, was always like in between them in every photo, and there's not that many photos.
She didn't just say that. The way she phrased it was the dismissiveness, the way she avoids, made it plain that she didn't want to be involved with the fans. Noticed the mess around Blake. Interprets it as confirmation right away that Kendrick had no desire to interact with her co-star was more than required by contract.